May the Karamanid dynasty be ruined. What quarrels did I even have with the sons of Osman?
Yo! That is funny! Oh my gosh, I'm finally doing it! It's finally here, right?
Sultan Mehmed II stood
finally here.
A rapidly expanding empire, but his path to dominance was anything but uncontested. To the west, the rugged mountains of Albania became the stage for a fierce and prolonged struggle, while at sea, the naval forces of the Venetian Doge contested the waters of the eastern Mediterranean.
Bro.
Meanwhile, far to the east,
Albanians, bro,
new and
MVP.
Dangerous threat emerged in the form of Uzun Hassan, the ruler of the Aq Qoyunlu, a powerful Turkmen confederation with ambitions to challenge Ottoman supremacy in Anatolia and Persia. Mehmed now found himself fighting on two bloody fronts, on opposite sides of his realm. In this episode in our series on the Ottoman Empire, we will examine the last years of the Albanian rebel Skanderbeg, the Ottoman-Venetian War, and Mehmed's war.
Last years?
Culminating at the Battle of Otluk Beli.
What?
Every week we release 3 new exclusive.
Last year? No. Last year?
As Mehmed II spent the entire year of 1465 resting his armies and recovering from physical ailments in Constantinople, he began planning for the next campaign season. Not one to remain idle in his imperial palace, the Sultan decided to march on Albania in person at the head of an army to crush Skanderbeg's revolt once and for all. The target was the rebel capital of Kruji, the mountain fortress that Murad II had unsuccessfully besieged 15 years earlier. After many years of hearing news about defeats in the region, Mehmed believed only he alone could extinguish the flame of the Albanian revolt, which had been burning for over 20 years now. While the Ottoman army was being mustered for war, Venice took advantage of the Sultan's inaction over the past year to seize the islands of Lemnos, Imbros, Thassos and Samothraki. Lesbos and its capital, Mytilene, were also put under siege but were repelled by the island's local Turkish garrison. Peace negotiations had also fallen apart, as military engagements in the Morea and the Aegean Sea escalated tensions between the two sides. However, such Ottoman counteractions against the Italian Merchant Republic were put on hold, as Mehmed focused all of his strength and attention on Albania for the upcoming year. Leaving his capital at the head of a 30,000-strong host, the Sultan arrived in Albania during the summer of 1466. Once more, Ottoman raiders burned and pillaged the countryside, enslaving many during their campaign of terror. Furthermore, to prevent future Albanian ambushes against Turkish forces, the forests along the main roads in the region were cleared. Once the path to Kruja was opened, Mehmed marched his grand army to its gates and laid siege to the fortress. Meanwhile, Skanderbeg had requested military aid from Venice and fiscal support against the Turkish invasion, but the forces of the Doge were too preoccupied in the Morea and the Aegean Sea to provide any substantial assistance. Fortunately for the Albanian lord, Kruja's garrison, commanded by Tenushtopia, had endured over 2 months of intense Ottoman bombardment and repeated assaults on its walls. Convinced that the fortress could not be taken by force, Mehmed left a token army under Balaban Beda to continue the siege and force a surrender, while he began withdrawing his main army back to Constantinople. Despite his inability to seize Kruja, the Sultan ordered the construction of a formidable fortress known as Elbasan, located in the heart of Albania, as a means to conduct future campaigns in the region. Built in an incredibly short time, reportedly just 25 days, Elbasan demonstrated a long-term commitment to subduing the thorn that was the Albanian revolt. While the
also, that's a cool fact. That was a cool fact that I just read.
He received great news of a victory against Venice in the Morea. A 2,000-strong Venetian army besieging Patras had been swept aside and defeated by the forces of Otluk Beli in 2 one-sided battles near the coastal town. Over 1,000 invaders were killed, wounded or captured during the chaotic engagements. With Venice beaten back, the Sultan planned to march on Albania the following year. As the winter of 1466 settled in, Skanderbeg visited Italy to gather any assistance for the still besieged Kruja. Despite his desperate pleas, the Albanian leader left Rome with only 5,000 ducats and proceeded to Naples, where he received some weapons, supplies, and an additional 1,000 ducats. Upon his return to his devastated homeland, Skanderbeg began talks with the opportunistic Lecce Dugagini to rejoin the Liege of Leisure. After much negotiation, the two sides reached an agreement, and a new host of around 10,000 strong was assembled to relieve Kruja in the spring of 1467. Employing his established tactic of launching multiple coordinated assaults to confuse the Ottoman host, Skanderbeg was able to surround the besiegers under the command of Balaban. After 4 days of hit-and-run attacks on the Turkish camp, the Ottoman Pasha was killed, thus resulting in the fragmentation of his army. Many Turks who had survived the onslaught fled to the surrounding mountains of the Albanian capital, where they were later tracked down and killed in retaliation for the plundering of the region a year prior. Receiving the disastrous news from Albania, Sultan Mehmed II gathered another army to lead personally in an attempt to seize Kruja once more. By the summer of 1467, the Ottoman army had entered the region and again set it ablaze. Many peasants and noblemen were killed and enslaved, as the Sultan's wrath seemed unrelenting against the rebels. In addition to Kruja, the Venetian
defeated Skanderbeg. Oh shit!
Of Durrës was also put under siege by Grand Vizier Mahmud Pasha. Regardless, both sieges were to be unsuccessful, as Turkish artillery was not present in either siege. With a plague outbreak hitting the Balkans by August, the Ottoman host withdrew to friendly territory, again failing to achieve their objectives for the campaign. In the months following his victory at Kruja, Skanderbeg began making plans to seize the new Ottoman fortress of Elbasan and expel the Turkish presence from Albania. However, before such plans could be finalized and a council of nobles convened, the Albanian ruler died in January 1468 at the age of 62 from malaria. Skanderbeg was one of the most formidable foes faced by the House of Osman throughout its history. Militarily, the Albanian lord accomplished what few in the Balkans could, sustaining significant resistance against the Ottoman Empire for over 2 decades. From 1443 to 1468, he successfully repelled numerous Ottoman campaigns by employing a combination of guerrilla tactics, strategic fortifications, and a masterful understanding of the rugged Albanian terrain. His leadership in defending key strongholds, particularly the repeated defense of Kruja, earned him a legendary reputation in both the Balkans and Western Europe. Culturally, Skanderbeg came to symbolize the unity and resilience of the Albanian people. In the centuries following his death, particularly during the Albanian national awakening of the 19th century, his figure was revived as a national icon. Although the Albanian revolt would continue after Skanderbeg's death, it effectively became leaderless, as a power struggle erupted in the region. In contrast, Turkish armies became preoccupied with wars elsewhere around the empire. With Skanderbeg dead, Venice defeated at the gates of Patras, and Hungary now engulfed in a bloody war against Bohemia, Sultan Mehmed II set his sights on Anatolia. After a lengthy 40-year reign, Ibrahim II Bey of the Karamanids was bedridden. The late ruler of Albania had
Yo! These people, I said this in one of my parts, like how are these people still alive? We're finally, after God knows how long, talking about these people because I have been wondering why these people still exist.
6 sons from his political marriage to Mehmed's late aunt, Elaldi Sultan, with the eldest to youngest being Piri Ahmed, Kasim, Kaya, Nurasufi, Alaeddin, and Suleiman. However, this marriage alliance between the 2 Turkic houses failed to maintain peace between their realms, as frequent border skirmishes occurred, most famously during the Varna Crusade and before the siege of Constantinople. Loathing his sons with Elaldi because of their Ottoman heritage, Ibrahim instead favoured Ishak, his son born to a concubine in his harem, as his natural successor. This favouritism from their father evidently heightened tensions between Ishak and his more legitimate half-brothers. With Ibrahim II Bey's death in 1464, a power struggle erupted among his sons, prompting Ishak to first flee to the Ramazanids of Cilicia before making his way to the court of Uzun Hassan of the Aq Qoyunlu. Meanwhile, Suleiman and Nurasufi successfully appealed to Mehmed II for fiefs in Ottoman Anatolia, while Qasim fled to the Mamluks of Egypt, the traditional ally of the Karamanids. Official hostilities erupted between Ibrahim's sons when Ishak, leading an Aq Qoyunlu army, invaded the Karamanid Beylik and captured Konya. However, this swift triumph did not last long, as Piri Ahmed had escaped to the safety of Constantinople. Appealing to Mehmed to appoint him as a pro-Ottoman bey of the Karamanids against his openly hostile half-brother, Piri Ahmed led an army into the Beylik in the spring of 1465. Defeating Ishaq in open battle near the town of Dapizara, the half-Ottoman, half-Karamanid Bey entered Konya as an official vassal of the Sublime Porte. Despite bending the knee to his cousin, Piri Ahmed conducted secret alliance negotiations with Venice, similar to his late father during the Varna Crusade, to maintain his independence from the Ottomans. Nonetheless, this would prove disastrous, as Mehmed intercepted such talks and invaded the Beylik alongside his Grand Vizier. In a lightning campaign during the summer of 1468, Konya surrendered without a fight, while its Bey escaped to Aq Qoyunlu. To signify his total victory over a fellow Turkic power, the artisans of the Karamanid capital were rounded up and sent to Constantinople on the Sultan's orders. However, it was during this episode that Grand Vizier Mahmud Pasha was dismissed and exiled due to the political maneuvers of the second Vizier, Rum Mehmed Pasha, who took his rival's former office. Allegedly, the former Grand Vizier had accepted bribes from the city's elite artisans in exchange for the safety of their homes and wealth. Whether or not these allegations were factual, after annexing the entirety of the Karamanid Beylik once and for all, Mehmed concluded his campaign during the fall of 1468 and left for his capital. While the Sultan was away in Anatolia, Ottoman raiders from the newly conquered province of Bosnia launched a series of raids on Venetian and Austrian possessions in the Balkans. Under the command of Isa Bey, these incursions reached as far as Sadar and Šibenik in Dalmatia, as well as Metlika and Ljubljana in Carniola. Many market towns and their surrounding villages were torched, and the inhabitants were either massacred or taken as slaves. In retaliation for such devastating raids into Christendom, Venetian forces, led by the military governor of the island of Evia, Niccolo di Canale, struck the coastlines of Ottoman Macedonia and Thrace. These raids resulted in the sacking of Ainos and the killing and enslavement of its Greek population. While Mehmed II spent the winter of 1469 in Sofia due to a devastating plague outbreak in Constantinople, he ordered his fleet to gather in the safety of the Bosphorus. The Sultan planned to launch a surprise invasion of the Venetian island of Evia the following year, intending to deal a significant blow to the Doge's military capabilities in the local region. Deceiving the Venetians into believing his fleet was heading to Rhodes to confront the Knights Hospitaller, Mehmed landed his force of around 35,000 on the island during the summer of 1470. After a month-long siege, the island's fortress capital of Negroponte fell to the Sultan's army, resulting in its sacking and the massacre of its Greek and Latin inhabitants. In the weeks following the fall of Negroponte,
I'm so used to that by now.
Castles of Evia surrendered in fear, bringing the entire island under Ottoman control. However,
where are the Albanians at? That's what I want to see! Where's the Albanian?
The Sultan was preoccupied with his war against Venice. His attention would once again shift to Anatolia, as a new eastern threat arose in the form of the Aq Qoyunlu under Uzun Hassan. The Aq Qoyunlu were one of several Turkoman tribal federations that emerged in the 14th century
that is
after the Mongol invasions
big.
and the decline of the Ilkhanate. Initially based in eastern Anatolia and parts of Armenia and northern Mesopotamia, the Aq Qoyunlu vied for dominance against their Turkic cousins and rivals, the Kara Qoyunlu. By the early 15th century, the state was relatively minor compared to the Kara Qoyunlu, who had established a powerful state centered in Tabriz under the rule of Kara Yusuf and his successors. However, the foundations for the Aq Qoyunlu resurgence were laid by Uzun Hassan's grandfather Osman Bey, who began consolidating his power in Diyarbakir with the support of the Timurids during the early 1400s. Uzun Hassan was born in 1423 and succeeded his brother Jahangir Bey as leader of the Aq Qoyunlu in 1452. He quickly proved himself to be a shrewd military and political leader. His early reign was marked by campaigns aimed at strengthening internal control over the Confederation and subduing rival Turkoman tribes in eastern Anatolia. Yet by the 1460s, the climax of Uzun Hassan's campaign against his Turkic cousins came in 1467, when he decisively defeated and killed Jahan Shah at the Battle of Çapakçı. This victory effectively ended the Kara Qoyunlu's dominance and allowed Uzun Hassan to seize their core territories, including the crucial city of Tabriz, which he made his capital. After this victory, Uzun Hassan inherited an expansive and diverse realm that included much of modern-day Iran, Azerbaijan, and Iraq. He began transforming the Aq Qoyunlu tribal federation into a more centralized state and styled himself as Padishah-i Iran. In 1472, Tensions in the recently conquered Ottoman province of Karaman erupted when Qasim Bey, the second eldest son of the late Ibrahim II, marched into the region with Mamluk military support. Although he was defeated and routed at the Battle of Mut near the Taurus Mountains, Qasim's sudden rebellion signalled to Mehmed that his eastern borders were under constant threat from the Mamluks and the Aq Qoyunlu. He would be proven right. In a bold and strategic move, Uzun Hassan began forging alliances against the Ottomans, particularly with the Mamluks and, more notably, with Venice and the papacy, who viewed him as a valuable eastern ally against the growing threat of Mehmed's empire. The two sides attempted to unite their forces against Mehmed during the summer of 1472, when a Christian fleet, composed of Venetian, Papal, Neapolitan and Knights Hospitaller forces, launched a surprise assault on the Ottoman coastal towns of Antalya and Izmir, resulting in the burning of their outer suburbs. Meanwhile, Uzun Hassan officially declared war against the Sublime Porte and crossed into Ottoman eastern Anatolia at the head of a 60,000-strong host, and sacking Tokat. Qoyunlu Sultan
that's
used
big.
Mehmed as an obstacle to his expansion plans in the Middle East, as he sought to seize a Mediterranean port to commence trading with Europe himself. Therefore, he allied with Western powers in an attempt to secure Anatolia for himself, much like the once great Emir Timur had done 70 years earlier.
It's only been 70 years. Only been 70 years, and the Timurid Empire kind of already declining. Wow.
Threat to his realm, Mehmed reinstated Mahmud Pasha as Grand Vizier and began mustering the largest Ottoman host seen since his great siege of Constantinople, consisting of 70 to 100,000 troops.
That note is crazy. That note, that was.
By the fall of 1472,
that is.
The army was ferried into Anatolia.
Wow.
Where it
but 70 to 100,000. Wow.
The local forces of Mehmed's two eldest sons, Shahzada Bayezid, governor of Amasya, and Shahzada Mustafa, governor of Konya, joined near Isparta to fend off the sudden invasion until reinforcements arrived from the capital. After decades of significant victories in Europe, everything depended on the campaigning season of 1473 for the Ottoman Sultan. Otherwise, it seemed his new empire would crumble with the loss of Anatolia. While Ottoman lands up to Ankara were being sacked, Piri Ahmed and Qasim Bey united their forces and seized Kayseri. The following year, they planned to invade their homeland of Karaman to restore their father's once proud beylik. However, the two brothers were defeated by Shahzada Mustafa at the Battle of Kareli, which forced them to flee to Aq Qoyunlu territory. The decisive battle also resulted in the capture of three of Uzun Hassan's sons, Yusuf Mirza, Zainal Mirza, and Mirza. The three brothers were later ransomed back to their father's realm by the end of the year. Additional good news arrived for the Sultan when a Venetian fleet north of Cyprus, carrying ample gunpowder weapons to the Aq Qoyunlu, was ambushed and seized by Ottoman corsairs, a development crucial to the outcome of Mehmed's military campaign. By spring 1473, Mehmed began marching east at the head of his immense host. Unlike in previous campaigns, where he kept his actual military dispositions and objectives secret from the world, the Sultan wrote public letters to the Aq Qoyunlu ruler, demanding that their armies clash in eastern Anatolia.
Yo, you want the smoke! He want the smoke! He wants the smoke!
Uzun Hassan marched west once more in the summer, commanding a great Turkoman host. Guards of the two armies met near Malatya, where the forces of Has Murad Pasha were routed back north to Erzincan. During the retreat north, the Ottoman Pasha, who was the illegitimate nephew of Constantine XI, drowned in the Euphrates River. Upon hearing of the death of one of his favourite statesmen, Mehmed nearly abandoned the campaign, but was persuaded to continue when envoys from Uzun Hassan arrived at his camp near the town of Turchan. The Aq Qoyunlu Sultan had demanded the former territories of the Trebizond Empire, as well as the beyliks of the Karamanids, Areshnids and Jandarids. To make it clear that he possessed the power to enforce his demands, the envoys presented the Sultan with a sack of millet, remarking that if he took arms against their master, his troops would need to be at least as numerous as the grains. The outraged Mehmed responded to this provocation by replying, "Tell your master that as quickly as these chickens have devoured the sack of millet, my janissaries will deal with his men, who may be skilled at herding goats, but not at fighting." The battle between the two Turkic sultans was just around the corner. On August 11th, both armies met near the heights of Otluk Beli. The Ottoman host numbered around 100,000 soldiers. Sultan Mehmed II and the Grand
That is huge, bruh!
Alongside the Kapikuli Sipahi cavalry, the elite Janissary infantry and artillery, To the left lay the provincial Anatolian army, led by Shahzada Mustafa and Anatolian Beylerbey David Pasha. To the right stood the Rumelian army, commanded by the Sultan's eldest son, Shahzada Bayezid. Both flanks comprised Tamalik cavalry, augmented by a vanguard of light Azeb infantry, specialized Tefekçi gunners, and Akinci light horsemen on the far wings. The Aq Qoyunlu host had a similar number of troops to the Ottomans, ranging from 70 to 100,000, and was a classical Turkoman army, comprised primarily of light cavalry and spearmen. Uzun Hassan and Piri Ahmed commanded the center, while the Sultan's sons, Zeynel Mirza and Ogurlu Mehmed, respectively commanded the right and left flanks. The battle began with the Ottoman Anatolian army charging into Zeynel Mirza's ranks. The bloody engagement was one-sided, as the more modern, disciplined and firepower-heavy Ottoman troops overpowered the traditional, fast-moving tribal cavalry of the Aq Qoyunlu.
Yeah, honestly,
rising dust.
Yeah, honestly, this is an Ottoman victory. You don't even have to tell me how this shit is gonna go.
From the ground,
like,
fell from his horse and was killed by an Azab named Mahmud Aga.
Wow.
With the prince's severed head sent back to Mehmed and without a leader, the Aq Qoyunlu right flank began to rout off the battlefield in massive panic, resulting in many casualties. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, Bayezid's army of Rumelia had engaged with the forces of Ogurlu Mehmed, and once again, the Ottomans outgunned their foes.
Yeah, bro, the Ottoman army is just too modern, bro.
The battle was already lost. The Aq Qoyunlu prince began to withdraw from the battlefield. It was captured by Akincis and taken back to Mehmed. Soon after, the Aq Qoyunlu left flank also began routing en masse.
Yep. One-sided battle, what the hell?
Classical chronicles, with Ottoman troops now pouring down both his flanks, an enraged Uzun Hassan shouted at Piri Ahmed, "May the Karamanid dynasty be ruined. What quarrels did I even have with the sons of Osman?"
Yo! That is funny! Nah, bro. This man had regrets. He had regrets. This man said, "This is because of you, bruh." Yo! My man said, bruh. I didn't even have beef with these people, bruh.
Guarding his exposed ranks, the Sultan of Aq Qoyunlu and the Karamanid Bey fled the scene of their great defeat. The one-sided Battle of Otluk Beli was over, leaving over 30,000 dead, wounded and captured Turkomans.
Oh my lord! My god, look at those casualties, bruh!
As the dust
oh my lord!
Beli, the fate of Eastern Anatolia.
Oh!
Uzun Hassan's dreams of halting Ottoman expansion were shattered. With them, the rising star of the Aq Qoyunlu began to fade, leading to the gradual decline of the vast empire throughout the remainder of the 15th century. The battle also demonstrated that the highly disciplined gunpowder units of the Sublime Porte massively outperformed the disorganized Turkoman tactics of Asia. For Sultan Mehmed II, Otluk Beli was more than just a military victory. It was a declaration to all rivals in the west and east that his empire was not just here to stay, it was here to dominate. With the Sultan securing...
That's a fire line. It's not here to stay, it's here to dominate. That's a fire line, bro.
He would now direct his full attention to the European theatre of his empire, where he remained for the rest of his reign. As the war with Venice still raged on, new threats to Ottoman hegemony emerged, this time in the Balkans, in the form of the Principality of Moldavia. In the next episode of our series on the history of the Ottomans, we will examine Mehmed's wars in Crimea.
Anyways, not much happened this episode, but we had some stuff. Not a lot. Honestly, aside from that one-sided fight, this episode was kind of tame. Anyways, you got any suggestions like this, make sure you comment it in the comments down below. Eventually I will do it. If you're an active viewer, I recommend you become a channel member, bruh. You know, it's only 99 cents a month. I purposely made it cheap for my active viewers to stay in touch with me. You know, as I get more subscribers, more viewers, more comments, you know, I have a job, gonna be going to college, all that. It's gonna be harder for me to like respond to everyone, right? You know, so if you're an active viewer, you like watching my stuff, you're very active on my channel, I recommend you become a channel member for only 99 cents a month, man. Right? Your suggestions are done much more quicker. Your comments have more priority reply. compared to others. You get early access to uploads and a whole lot of other perks that I'm not gonna say here. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna link the video where I talk about all the perks that you get in the comments down below. Anyways, man, thank you for watching and goodbye.